go. Starting off with that uplifting music. I always love it. And welcome. Glad to have everybody with us, both the panel and those watching live or in replay. Um, we are open conversations with international coaches for April the 18th, 2024. What a wonderful year it has been so far, and it's going to be coming onto us as we move forward. Today's topic is mastering meditation, and there's a lot to talk about meditation. It isn't just sitting there saying Om or home, as the recent ads would have you think. Um, there's just so much. And I'm going to start off, if everybody doesn't mind, right after the introductions. I've got a couple of things I want to share quickly. But let's get into those introductions. Cass, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Cass J. Henry. I'm an abundance coach working out of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I offer my services both in person and virtually. As an abundance coach, it's my job to assist my clients in altering their perspective from one of lack to one of abundance. Together, we'll discover the power of tools like affirmations, habit creation, mindset work, goal setting, experimentation, and journaling, just to name a few. And the overarching goal is to achieve a more harmonious balance in life. So if you find yourself feeling stuck and focusing on everything going wrong in your world right now, let's do a discovery call and see if we're a good fit, because I'd love the opportunity to show you the abundance that's in your own life right now. You can find me on cassjhenry.com, and I'll pass it back to you, Steve.
Yes, absolutely awesome. So motivating, too, the idea of going from lack to abundance within your life as it is now, not a whole big change, a change in outcomes, but not perspective. It's just wonderful. Shelley Ann, tell us who you are and what you do.
Good morning, Steve and Cass, and those who are looking at us in this conversation. I, I've always, every time you ask me that question, Steve, I have to pause and think. Tell me about me. My name is Shelley Edwards Barron, and I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. I am a gratitude guide and habit coach. And what that means is that I get to help my clients really enjoy their life by looking at all they have to be grateful for. I know that sometimes, at least what happened with me, and I know it happens with many other people, when we hit 40, we suddenly take a look at, where we are, what's happening in our lives, and most of us see things that we're not too happy about, and we feel like we've missed some things or we haven't accomplished what we really set out to do. So then we add and we add and we add things to do, and that ultimately leads to overwhelm. And then when we get there, we're frustrated, we're overwhelmed, and we're incredibly unhappy. And what I've found is that infusing a daily habit of gratitude, that practice every day of being grateful and noticing what we're grateful for, I have found that that has changed my life completely. So now I'm on a mission to help other people experience that shift through implementation of what I call the gratitude strategy. And with that, I show my clients how to say it right, which is looking at self talk and dealing with more positivity, and how to say it loud, which is making gratitude tangible and practical. And then finally, we look at saying it always, which is where we discuss implementing that daily habit of gratitude. And it begins with as little as 5 minutes a day, first thing in the morning. And it's amazing how much that has an impact on what we do and how we feel. And I recently concluded, well, temporarily, we're on a pause. Every week, I went live with a colleague of mine in a program called Getting It Done with Gratitude. Last week, Thursday, was our last session for our first year of gratitude. And I could write a book on how much we learned through that experience of focusing on gratitude. And I probably will. So look out for that. eventually. If you want to chat with me in the meantime, you can find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Just look for my name, Shelley Edwards Barron. I would definitely love to have a chat about gratitude. I can talk about this forever and all the time. And even when we're going to be talking about meditation today, I'm going to be infusing gratitude in that because it's a huge, huge companion to all of these things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Um, I guess it's me now. My name is Stephen B. Henry, and you can call me Steve. Known by many online as the coach's coach. I'm a multi niche coaching practitioner. As an experienced online presence consultant, a business success guide, and a personal development mentor, I bring this holistic trifecta together for my clients in a single toolbox. My many years of experience across the spectrum of personal and business life, and my sincere commitment to ongoing learning inform my approach and work life ethic by understanding that success is a journey, not a destination. One's goals become more attainable and exceedingly more enjoyable. It's all about setting smart goals and remembering that you set your goals in concrete, but you draw your plans in the sand. You want to be open to change. And as I often say, the time to hire your guide is before you get lost in the woods. Um, I was talking last week or earlier this week with someone about Smokey the Bear, and I just realized how much that sounds. The time to hire your guide is before you get lost in the woods. Um, we could have fun with that. Anyway, I wanted to start out with something. I'm sure someone else has a definition uh, of this whole process that we're going to look at today. The idea of mastering meditation is powerful, but I want to step beyond the general definition. I'll let one of you bring that out because I'm sure somebody has it written down. But I discovered that there were multiple methods of meditation. Thinking about meditation, the idea that you sit and meditate, and I found that not to be true. There's so much more to it than that. It's so richer. And so I distilled it down into four areas of meditation that are four methods of meditation that I wanted to refer to. The first one is focused attention meditation. And that's the concentrating on a single point of focus, such as the breathing, a mantra, a physical sensation. And that kind of is what I saw meditation as when I first looked into it last night. But then we've got mindfulness meditation, which comes into the gratitude and observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment and allowing them to come and go naturally. And so that's a whole different area. That's meditation in the process of your daily life, not just setting this time for it. And then open monitoring meditation. That one was really new to me. I hadn't thought about that at all. But expanding your awareness to encompass a wider range of internal and external experiences. More, abundance cast. That when you say that about lack to abundance, that's meditation for that purpose. And I thought of you when I read that. And then movement meditation. And I hadn't thought of it as meditation as such, but I've been talking to a professional exercise consultant, and because I need exercise in my daily life. And this is focusing on bodily sensations during movement practices like Tai Chi or walking meditation. And I need to start walking again. I used to walk regularly and I kind of got out of the habit of it. And so I need to get back into that because it is, you exercise the body, you breathe in the fresh air. I walk around the block here and it's really pleasant experience. There's a schoolyard and different almost park like lawns and properties. So the walk is exercise, but it's observation. And I realize now that I can get that thinking, that meditation going, instead of busying my mind while I walk about all the things I need to do when I get home. I can just let it flow. And so I wanted to share those four different approaches as we got started, because whether you speak to them or whether you just share about meditation, it'll fit in there somewhere. And perhaps you even have something else to add to that list, but those four pretty much cover it for me. So, who's got a good definition that we can throw out?
Well, I was going to jump in there first and say I have two more that I had a list of nine, and you
Okay.
covered most of them with your four. And two that I have that you didn't specifically mention, which this one could be maybe covered under movement, but progressive muscle relaxation is a form of meditation. So that's where you start at the bottom or at the top, and you move through all the different muscles in your body, and you tense them and then release them, or you just imagine as you focus on that muscle group, a wave rolling over. So that would partially be part of the movement, but I think that's a specific one that's worth mentioning.
That's a great way to get to sleep as well,
Yeah.
for people who have trouble sleeping. Yeah, good one. I forgot about that one.
And the other one is all of them fit under this one, is guided meditation. So instead of doing it on your own, you're either listening to a recording or having somebody talk you through it. So that's that fits into any of the other groups. So those were the two that I thought that needed mentioning outside of your four.
Absolutely. The guided meditation, and I've seen that done, so I knew about it. I wasn't thinking about it here. I would say that's a modality as opposed to a method, but it really applies, as you said, to all of them. And we should never be afraid to ask for help or advice or input from other people, whether it's an accountability partner, a study buddy, or a mentor or guide or coach. All of us, including coaches, need to uh, not be afraid. Shelley Ann.
I think I was thinking about the definition, and like you, Steve, when I first thought of meditation, we had you sit in a comfortable position and you close your eyes, and that kind of practice for meditation. But in the reading and trying to understand meditation a little bit better, the definition that I came across that I think fits with everything is really meditation is training your mind to focus. And whether you focus on your muscles or your breath or your limbs or gratitude, in terms of the mindfulness, the process of or the act of focusing your mind where you want to focus it, that is what meditation ultimately is. And I hadn't thought of it about it like that before. It always seemed sort of mysterious,
Mhm.
but when you think of it that way, it is quite practical. I mean, however, um, whatever you choose to focus on, the point of focus is up to the individual and up to the method, but the act of being that intentional and conscious and deliberate with our focus is something that I think is one of the reasons meditation is so beneficial, health
Mhm.
wise and otherwise. It's really beneficial because focus is so important in everything that we do, especially in the world as it is now, where there are so many distractions and things that are occupying our thoughts. When do we choose to control our focus by being intentional about what we do? And so that had me really thinking about meditation as a whole and all the varieties, because I too was surprised about all these different methods and ways, and I just thought, well, meditation is meditation.
Yeah, it's interesting that you shared that definition because, and you used the words intention and intentional. Um, I didn't come across those two words, uh, but they're important to me. They resonate with me, and I really saw that. My definition was almost identical to yours without intention. Meditation is the practice that trains the mind and cultivates a state of awareness and focus. But that word focus, it turned up in my research time and time again.
Mhm,
Meditation is
mhm.
about focus, and you've laid that out and shared it in such a way that it's so understandable. Thank you for that. I love it.
I really like that meditation is practical in the sense that you can do it anywhere. Specifically, mindfulness meditation. You can be in a line at the grocery store and you can be mindful of your surroundings and mindful of your thoughts for however long you're waiting in that line. And you don't have to get stressed about where you need to be or stressed and anxious about whether you have the right coupons or, whatever it is. You can just take those 2 minutes to do some mindful meditation and bring yourself to a calm place. So the idea that you don't need to have like expensive equipment or a membership somewhere
Mhm.
to be able to do mindfulness, the most important tools that you can bring with you to your meditation practice are patience, some self-kindness for yourself, and a comfortable place to sit.
Mm,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do
Yeah.
it standing too or laying down, but
yeah.
definitely sitting is the preferred. And don't do it while you're driving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, please.
That's how you're driving, and then you get to your destination, and you can't remember what was in between. Did I stop at that stop sign? Yeah, yeah, that's maybe it.
And one of the things that really stood out for me is the fact that it's a practice and it's something that, like I said, we have to be intentional about. It doesn't just happen without some precursor. And when I came across that word focus, it reminded me of dealing with children and hearing parents and teachers saying, he just needs to focus, she just needs to focus. Children need to learn how to focus on their studies. Yet I wonder about who teaches them how to do that. Because as adults, meditation, which is the practice of focusing our minds, is so often challenging that there are numerous practical guides and gurus and everybody. There's so much support with that, yet it seems like we sometimes think it should be simple and easy, that
It's
anybody could do
innate,
it. Yeah,
right?
it's innate, but it's not.
Mm-mm. No, yeah, that's the interesting thing. One of my big beefs about education is that teachers, and having been one, I think I can speak openly to this, but teachers will tell kids to take notes, but nobody ever teaches the kids how to take notes or explains why to take them, or their use. They will tell the kids to go home and study for the test tomorrow, but nobody teaches them how to study or what study is all about. We kind of expect things, and you're right, I came across that with meditation because I wasn't aware of some of the areas of meditation myself. I realized that I couldn't just expect to know them or
Yeah.
expect anybody else to just know them. And as Cass, you said you found nine. My four come out of many different things that I found that were not, specifically a thing, but they led to me creating these four things that I felt encompassed them. And but nine individuals, I don't know how many I saw. I don't know that it was nine, but that's a lot in one particular defined topic. Certainly
Yeah.
far more than I would ever expect to have thought about when we were first talking about this last week as being this week's topic. It is just this topic more than any of the others that we have talked about. And you're right, Shelley, and they do all fit together and they inform each other. But this one more than any of the others, in my brief experience of a week of thinking about it and then researching it mostly last night and putting a whole lot of things together that I mean, I've got a good page and a half of notes here that I had not expected. I usually have just a small couple of paragraphs to remind me of the things that I looked at, but I kind of got into the research of what was here because I kept turning up something new. And
Mm.
this really touches. I really realized that it touches on so many different things that we've talked about and puts its own spin on it, its own take on it, as to how we would adapt it into what we're doing. And I'm still I'm still enthralled by the breadth and depth of the topic that I perceived as being that's fairly simplistic. We'll cover that with no problem. I know we've said a lot of times that we get to the end of our session, we could really talk on about that. We'll have to do it again. This one, I don't even know how we can fully introduce it in our session today. It's just so um, complex. It's not a simple
Yeah.
topic. Yeah.
Well, I would love to just take a brief moment and be practical about that complexity, and maybe focus down in on one of the forms that might be a beginner. If you don't have a
Hmm.
practice of mindfulness, if you're, or sorry, meditation, if meditation isn't something that you do, but you want to start implementing it, breath awareness meditation is one of the, I don't want to use the word easier, but one of the ones that you can sort of slip into better. And it's just the idea of finding a quiet place to be in. Yes, I said you can do it in a grocery store, but if you're just starting out, you probably want to find a quiet place to be in, to sit comfortably, have your feet on the ground, connecting you to the earth. And you just lower your gaze or close your eyes and you just focus on your breathing. At the beginning, when you start focusing, it's going to be altered by your focus. So you want to breathe deep and inhale and exhale. But as you move onwards in the time, just allow it to be natural. That feels weird at the beginning when you're focusing on it, but just allow it to be natural. And when a thought comes, the idea is to just sort of acknowledge it with no judgment and let it drift away. And as another thought comes, because they will, you just want to focus on your breathing. And it's a good idea at the beginning, I didn't mention, to maybe set a timer, a gentle timer that's not going to jolt you out of it, but for 2 to 5 minutes, give yourself, a way to ease into this. I've heard it said that 8 minutes a day is where a lot of the benefits start to show up when they do studies. So if you're just doing 8 minutes of meditation every day, then you're going to gain a lot of the benefits that I'm sure we will all talk about soon. But
Hmm.
yeah, breath awareness meditation is one of those ones that you can start slow and get into, and then you can start working on whether mantras or progressive muscle relaxation or different types of them that you may want to do guided later on. You can look for them online. There's all kinds of recordings on YouTube all over the place that
Hmm.
will walk you through them. But it just, for practical purposes, that's a little snapshot of what meditation can be.
Mhm.
Yeah, I started with guided and not necessarily, I guess I wouldn't call them mantras, but statements, repeating statements so that I could focus because and in the beginning I had this notion that I had to clear my mind. So I sort of imagined myself in a room and there's a person at the door and I'm holding back the door and keeping all the thoughts outside. But then I realized that it was more in a conversation I had with a friend who was a CBT, that's some cognitive behavioral therapist. Um, he explained it to me as I'm standing at a train station and the thoughts are like trains coming through, but I'm not stopping them and I'm not getting on the train. I'm just allowing them to pass by and noticing that they're passing by. And that was extremely helpful in terms of me not feeling that I had to like stop the freight train. I can just, let it go. And that is also okay. It was a lot more manageable for me than trying to clear the thoughts altogether. And so moving through the practice of meditation, I've inadvertently tried many of these that I didn't even know were different and had different labels. They were just all under this big umbrella of meditation for
Mhm.
me. But it really had me considering the idea of focus and that I can choose. I can choose where my what I what train I get on. Let me put it that way. I can choose what train I get on, and I don't have to jump on every train and end up wherever, I could choose this is where I want to go and this is the train I'm going to be on. And that really fascinated me. And the more I read on meditation and the more I develop the practice, I think I started with like about 3 minutes. Yeah, I think 3 minutes is all that I could have done until I found, even with the guided meditation, 3 minutes was my limit when I had just gotten started. And I think right now I'm gradually adding a minute here and there. I think I'm up to about 10 minutes now. Yeah. And I used to think that if I didn't get 30 minutes to an hour every day, meditation is useless. And since I started investigating the habits and habit development more, I realized, you know what? If I get 3 minutes done, I got 3 minutes done. It's not zero. So, it a lot has changed in my understanding of meditation over the years, and I would say changed for the better. And I'm seeing how, even those 3 minutes have helped in gaining that additional bit of focus and understanding and awareness of myself once it's done
Mhm.
regularly. Sometimes I fall off the wagon, but that's a whole other conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we could maybe bring in some of those impacts of meditation. Talk like you talked about your increased self awareness. So that's definitely a big part of meditation. Um, what I loved is that like I don't have the studies in front of me right now, but I could find them because I did find them. You can have improved immunity. You can have improved blood pressure because it's lowering your stress. It's working
Hmm.
with lowering symptoms of depression or pain or sleep disorders, headache relief, all this kind of physical stuff that happens from doing this mindful meditation. You can increase your memory and your fluid intelligence. I really like that term. Just that you're able to move through the different thoughts. Uh, it can increase your ability to maintain attention. And then also you can have one of the ones that I specifically the types was loving kindness meditation, which I think
Hmm.
covered under one of your topics there. So I didn't bring it up specifically, but that's certainly one that can improve empathy for
Mhm.
yourself and others. So like there's so many benefits of meditation I definitely don't do it often enough. It's something that I practice when I think about it, but I'd like to make it a habit. I'd like to, find whether it's the beginning or the end of my day or both or the middle of my day. Um,
Yeah, I came across the same list of things that you had, plus improved sleep quality, which surprised me. But my dad had always spoken about that, relaxation of muscles from the toes going up to the head in order to fall asleep. So
Hmm.
he was speaking about meditation without me really understanding that. But the one, improve self awareness, improve focus, improve attention, reduce stress and anxiety. Those are all ones that I probably have heard before, and your explanations were spot on for what I felt about them. One that I came across that I had to think about a little bit, but enhanced emotional regulation, that you can regulate your emotions, you can bring those under
Mm-hmm.
control in, anger management or
Yeah.
sarcasm or things that are socially less acceptable in certain places. You can bring that under control without creating more stress. And when I looked a little more into that, the we often we either don't observe our own emotions, or if we do, it's with pretty severe judgment. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. That was stupid. You know what? And if we realize that we're going to have emotions, I think you spoke to this a couple of weeks ago, Cass, about these things happening, that they're going to be there anyway. When we find ways to, the word that I got in my research was regulate, but perhaps moderate is a good word as well. To deal with them in a way that's not oppressive, that's not subtracting them because we really can't, but is simply allowing them, but with control. And this whole approach of having it happen anyway, having it become a habit, having it become part of what you're doing, is just so likable, enjoyable. It makes sense to be able to do that. And I had never thought before of using meditation to bring that into the picture. And it's going to be an interesting exercise.
Yeah, and the thing for me, in terms of paying attention to the thoughts, when I started considering the practice of meditation through focus and all these things, it occurred to me that this is how gratitude works, and that daily habit of gratitude, because that's pretty much what it is, focusing on positive thoughts, positive experiences, um, that exist in your life in the moment. So we're not wishing things should have been, and we're not lamenting what could have been. We're looking at what is and what is present now. And what you just described there, Steve, those are all the benefits of daily habit of gratitude, with the improved sleep, improved immunity, and there's research on that as well. And the reason is because the practice of that mindfulness with gratitude releases certain chemicals and hormones in our bodies that create the immunity and create the better sleep, create the improved health and the emotional regulation, because then we're able to pause. We're not just moving from stimulus to reaction. There's a pause between where we get to choose how we want to respond. And the response is not a knee jerk, quick, just it happens before we think, because we've practiced pausing and noticing and being mindful of how we feel and how we want to feel. And we can actually think a bit ahead of, okay, if I do this, what are the possible consequences? And then we decide, do we want those consequences or not? And with practice, it happens so quickly. When we're just getting started, for me, it would take a while. And then people would say, hey, what moment to think, please. But with practice, it happens so much more quickly that we're able to seem as if we're making, these split decisions and quick responses, when it's really the habit that's kicking in with that meditation and mindfulness. And I found that quite interesting. And I suppose this is where they interconnect, and all these practices work together to support us. Yeah.
I really like the use of the word response there as opposed to react, right? Because that's the difference, is that a reaction is
Yeah.
that knee-jerk reaction that you spoke of, and pausing,
Mhm.
taking a breath and having a response is what this is practice is building you towards. And as opposed to just that instantaneous, this you did and I feel. And I always say that you don't expect, with all these positive impacts, that you don't expect meditation to solve all your problems. It's just it's a part of your self-care routine, and it plays a role in helping you to feel better and less stressed.
Yeah, as Shelley Ann has referred to many of the characteristics of it being the underpinnings of gratitude, and the outcomes being the similar outcomes of practicing gratitude. This meditation is um, more involved in all the other things we've talked about, and probably all the things we're going to talk about, but also it is less of a thing on its own. It is as you said, Cass, a piece of the routine. It is a factor in what we do, and it's not the solution. It's not the be all and the end all by itself. Meditate and all your problems will go away. Maybe in the moment of meditation you won't be aware of your problems, but they're still there, and it is the outcomes of those positive outcomes that happen afterwards from meditation, because you're doing it. You talk about the event and the reaction. And how many times have you ever heard a person say, or you've seen in a television drama or a movie, you've seen a person getting out of control, and somebody saying, "Take a breath, take a breath," and
Yeah.
and they don't maybe even realize that what they're talking about is that intermediate step that meditation factors into our life, that when we learn to take a breath, when we learn the power of breathing, the power of breath, that we can then apply it into our life, into the events and the reactions that we're all going to have. We're going to experience events. Our life is a series of events and a series of reactions. But now we get the opportunity to change, in many cases, the reactions that we have to better suit or deal with the event. And the event is no longer a trigger, it's an occurrence, and then we choose. And as you said, Cass, with getting the practice, the taking of the breath is almost imperceptible. We just simply do it. And but you don't get there right at the beginning. You have to work through it. And I think that's one of the other areas that my research showed was the difficulties and the issues with meditation, and we often don't talk about those. We have mentioned the struggle to quiet the mind, and a lot of newbies in meditation give up because they never get to the point where everything is flowing. They got this busy mind, and this isn't going to work because I can't quiet it down. Well, it does take time, and just like setting a habit takes multiple weeks, many days, quieting the mind, getting control of your mind so that it's not running on by itself, that takes time and practice and developing the habit of doing that. People who have gone through that and who meditate regularly tell me, I actually asked a couple of people, and they said, "Oh, now I just choose to be meditating, and I'm there." And I think that's a very interesting event in the process of meditation, getting to the point where you can turn it on, and then, as Cass said, have some kind of alarm that will remind you that it's time to come out of it, because it can also be seductive, enticing. It's a comfort, it's a safe place, or it appears to be a safe place, and we tend to want to get in there and not get out again. So that can be there. Maintaining focus, we've talked about, that can be difficult for people. Finding the time to do it. It doesn't have to be much time, but we're in a real busy world where there's strings being pulled all the time, and it's
Yeah.
tough. That 3 to 8 minutes that we've talked about, it's sometimes difficult to put 3 minutes together in a patch, And 8 minutes, wow, that can be really, really tough. I had experience with a major corporate executive, a CEO and president of the company, um, who limited himself to 5 minutes with people. Even other big CEOs, if they were coming to see him about something, they had 5 minutes. And because he knew he couldn't put more than 5 minutes together for big issues because he was busy and had a lot on his plate and needed to get results. 5 minutes. Wow. And we're talking 3 to 8 minutes. We're right around, literally around 5 minutes. Um, that can be very difficult. So we have to, and then physical discomfort is another difficulty that is there. Cass, you mentioned about sitting. Sometimes we can't sit. And even if we can sit, this lotus position with your legs kind of twisted up together, I certainly can't do that.
Crisscross applesauce.
Yeah. I can't. I couldn't do that. Sitting, depending on what I'm sitting on, I'd have to, be thinking that 8 minutes later, I got to stand up again. That's going to be a consideration as well. So we have to look at those things. And then I talked about being able to regulate our emotions, but one of the problems is that when we get into meditation, it brings up those emotions, and sometimes that can be unpleasant.
Mhm,
Things that we've
mhm,
suppressed, traumas in our life that we've suppressed, and we don't even know we've suppressed them because they're so suppressed, we're not conscious of them anymore. And it can become quite a shock what meditation can bring out. So, if you're starting with meditation, I think I would have to recommend from what I've read about it. And I'm not someone who practices meditation or coaches it. So, I'm going to be looking more into it as a result of this occurrence today and the process. But for those who teach meditation or work with meditation, either with themselves or with others, I'm sure you understand this. In the beginning, it's a good idea to work with someone else to, not
mhm.
only to have directed meditation, but to have live directed meditation, have an actual mentor or coach or accountability partner with you
I,
to
I want
deal.
to
Yeah, go ahead,
I
Cass.
want to jump in there and just say that, like, through what I researched, that if you experience mental health issues, possibly talk to your doctor before you start a regular practice of meditation. If you're just going to do it once at an event, a one off, probably not that big of a deal. But if you're going to do it on a regular basis, there have been studies that show that it can be triggering in specific
Yeah.
cases. So definitely, if in my case, I have a history of psychosis. So I would speak to a professional and say, my psychiatrist, and say, hey, this is something I want to take on. What are your thoughts around it? What are some of my strategies that I can come up with, like things that you're going through right now, Steve, to help me have a better experience with it that's not going to be so triggering.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
because I think
definitely having a check-in person too.
Yeah, that's the key
yeah,
phrase. Yeah, I
that's
like
it. Because what happens is that when when you're meditating, you're becoming aware of your thoughts and yourself. And when you become aware of that, it is going to show you, and most of us don't know ourselves the way we think. And that's why, we say it depends on the circumstances. Some people, oh, I would never do that. Oh, yeah? Come stand 2 days in my shoes and see if you would really never do that. So there are lots of things we don't know how we would often react in many situations. From the outside, it seems obvious, but on the inside, it's a whole different story. And I think that's what meditation does. It brings up those thoughts, and most of us, when we get started, we're judgmental about those thoughts, and we try to block them or stop them or um, make them disappear instead of allowing them to flow through. And mm, if they stay, why are they staying? And have, answers for those things.
Curiosity,
And
right?
yeah, we don't often look with curiosity, we look with judgment. The
Mhm.
average person looks on with judgment. And I think that is one of the challenges with the meditation, that judgment, and moving toward a place of noticing instead of labeling and trying to fix, because I don't think all the benefits of meditation happen when we release as opposed to when we try to hold on to things and fix them ourselves. We allow ourselves to be in that place where um, we notice and allow our thoughts to sort of um, guide us in a sense. And that is where I feel like when you're just starting out and you don't know any of these things, it's worth, yes, working with someone and also doing your own research and reading up on what you can expect and some of these things. Because I think we had spoken about environment before, and we spoke about that social environment
Mhm.
and the physical environment, the different aspects of environment. That is, those are the areas that we do need to pay attention to when we're getting into meditation.
Mhm.
How are our environments, and how is this meditation practice going to impact
Yeah,
on these?
meditation might not be right for you right now. And I don't mean you, Shelly Ann. I mean anybody. For
Mhm.
you,
Yes,
the
yes,
the, the,
generally.
the, the general you. Um, it may be something you want to consider and research and look more into, and you may find that there's preparation that needs to be done before you get involved with it. When you're involved with it, I think two things that I kind of got and had to blend together, and they're polar opposites. One is that meditation has all of these tentacles into other things, but meditation itself is not a solution. It's not an answer. It is a very small process,
Practice.
a very small piece of the puzzle in our whole perspective. And therefore, it's going to trigger, because of these tentacles, it's going to trigger, enhance, react, cause all of these other things that we have to be prepared, not for
Hmm.
meditation to deal with, but for us to deal with. And you open a really good question there that I think maybe we can answer quickly, but we should probably answer is, what are the downsides to meditation? What you referred, peripherally to a number of issues that we have to consider. But are there specific downsides that we can identify and maybe save people some trouble?
The one thing that comes to my mind is that when when you begin the practice of meditation, and I can give my own experience with the guided meditation and so on, sometimes um, if you are not a very strong-willed person and you're not fully conscious of who you are and your own thoughts and so on, you can be sucked into someone else's version of things and be led down a path that isn't necessarily yours. So that while you're meditating, and especially with the guided meditations, and you're flowing with these other people's thoughts because they created the guide, then you can get caught up in that and not necessarily notice your own thoughts
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
it's
what
not not
you, yeah.
it's not meditation to get to yourself. It ends up being not meditation to get to somebody else. Yeah, that's
Yes,
difficult.
and
Yeah.
that could lead to that. And then coming from that, as meditation brings up many things, in the moment of the meditation, while the serotonin and all these other things are flowing, we feel okay in our person, but that is not, as you say, it's not the solution. So while we're feeling okay, there is still a situation to attend to. And there could be a point where a person can use meditation as an escape and go to meditation as opposed to dealing with and attending to situations at hand. So, my kids are screaming at me and, they're wrecking the house, and I'm going to meditate because that brings me at peace. And then we leave the
Right.
situation happening.
Yeah.
The idea is to meditate to bring your stress and anxiety down so that you are better prepared to go and handle the situation.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. The other thing that I speak about specifically with for myself is flashbacks. That when you're at that calm and your thoughts are just sort of coming through, especially with guided meditations and not necessarily knowing what the guide is going to walk you through, it can bring about
Hmm.
flashbacks, and so that can be pretty triggering and
Mm.
not a helpful place to be in. The other thing is that you can experience something called emotional blunting.
Mm.
So feeling emotionless, maybe, where my kids are wrecking havoc, and I choose to meditate, and then I come back and I'm not exhibiting an appropriate level of emotion to their action. And there's a way to match the affect without being out of control.
Yeah.
That's something that we do as humans. And so if you're
Hmm.
finding meditation is something that you always go to as you're turning to, without addressing the emotion related to the situation, that could be a problem too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can easily get trapped. Isn't the word I want, but you can easily become ensnared uh, in a feeling of detachment, a comfort
Hmm.
zone of detachment that Shelley Ann uh, referred to in the metaphor of the meditating while the kids are wrecking the house. um, you're there, I'm okay, it's not a problem, it's I'm meditating and everything's cool, but it isn't. We've got this false sense of security and a feeling of a false reality, and that
and and there can be a lot of
yeah.
dangerous situations where you would do that in, and that's not great.
Yeah, that's I
Hmm.
think a very important area, Cass, that you touched on there. So I think we can safely say that meditation is not for everyone or not for every situation. It's not a quick fix to anything, and it doesn't happen easily, quickly. We have to kind of work into it. We have to, or we probably want to have guidance and gain understanding, self taught or directed by other people, but we need to be careful of that direction as well. So I think that's what I've heard from around the table here of the things that we kind of have to think about, and just having the wherewithal, the focus to think about those things, that recognizing that you're not just going to go get a CD on or download an audio file on meditation and have it all work out for you. It goes beyond that. It seems like a little thing, but it's really a big thing, and there's a whole lot in there to be dealt with. I think
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I think what it comes down to for me is that meditation gives you a pause so that you could make a choice that you will act on,
Mm.
but it does not make the choice for you, neither does it act for you. It just gives you the pause so that you could make the choice and you can act.
Mhm.
Absolutely, see that. I wanted to bring up some. I'm always about the pieces, like how would I work with my clients on this, the practical side of if you want to bring meditation into a habit, which is something I'm very interested in. Are you going to create new patterns in your life? So say you have 10 minutes to spare, and you in your day, maybe not 10 minutes, maybe 5 is hard to put together, and so you say, okay, if I find myself with 5 minutes, I'm going to sit down at my desk and watch or listen to a guided meditation. or using meditation as a reward system. So if I've completed this job, then I'm gonna reward myself with 5 minutes of relaxing meditation. And
Mhm.
even just that mindfulness piece, like every time I finish a phone call, I'm gonna take deep breaths and focus on my breathing for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
finding those places to create new patterns in your life. And if you're going to put up reminders, remembering that, like, reminders become backdrop to your life. My computer says PS you got this across the bottom, but I see that every day, so it's just part of the backdrop. But if I really wanted that to be an affirmation or a reminder or a mantra, I would start moving that around different places so that I see it again.
Yeah.
And the other piece that I just want to say is that if you end your mindfulness, or sorry, meditation with a smile, you are
Mm.
much more likely to do it again next
Mhm.
Yes,
time. That's
the
my
joy of
final.
the smiling. Two things in what you said. One, I would be careful about using it as a reward because I think that for me, it would be meditation is something throughout, however, whichever, regardless of what's happening. And I'd be really careful about seeing it as a reward for something. So if that thing doesn't get done, then do I still meditate? So in my life, I would be really careful about that because I see a distinction there. For someone who doesn't have that, then that's perfectly fine. The other thing is having responses to deal with interruptions. One of the things with developing a habit that sometimes we overlook is that, we talk generally about life happening, but when we decide to implement a practice in our own lives to develop a habit, the rest of the world isn't paying attention to that. They're going about their business as normal. We are the ones who are making that change. And sometimes, let's say we decide, I'm going to do it at, let's say, when I get up, half an hour after I wake up, and then half an hour after you wake up, your phone starts ringing, or the dog runs in, or what are you going to do when interruptions present themselves? So the first part of it is creating the situation. So you plan ahead so that you let everybody know. Maybe you put your phone on silent, so you do things to minimize interruptions. But then also, it's important to have a plan that when interruptions come, because they will come, there is at no point any situation where you're implementing a new habit that you don't get interruptions. It will happen. What are you going to do at that time? If you leave it to the time to figure it out, then by the time you figure it out, your 10 minutes have passed, your 5 minutes are gone. So we need to have that in I guess the response ideas planned ahead of time so that when the interruption comes we can implement it because we know what we're going to do. If this happens, then this is what I will do. And sometimes even writing it out in that way. If like with one of my clients, we were working on reclaiming her time, and I think I'd mentioned this before. And with those 10 minutes, she started with 5 minutes and then we worked up to 10. We wrote down, she wrote down 11 o'clock was her 10-minute time. And if my colleagues ask for a meeting, I will tell them, please give me 5 minutes, please give me 10 minutes. If the phone rings, I will, um, turn the ringer off and call back. If And so she wrote down, so we brainstormed as many scenarios as we could think of that could possibly interrupt, and we created responses for them that would work within the context that she's
Mhm.
operating in and at the time she's operating with, because 11 o'clock, that's work time. And there are times when you can't say, give me 10 minutes. But in the situations
Absolutely.
when you can, you do that. And so minimizing interruptions is one part of it, but also having a plan for dealing with the interruptions when they come. That's really what helps us maintain the
Be
habits that
prepared.
we want to
Yeah.
get into. Yeah, yeah, getting prepared.
Yeah.
I just I'm noticing the time, and I wanted to throw out a possible topic for next week.
Hmm.
Something along the lines of saying it right. Now, there were a lot of moments today where we talked about positive and negative things, and every single time I bit my tongue because I have a I don't like those as uses of positive events and negative events, and those are labels that I have a hard time with. So I thought maybe we could actually look at saying it right and what that means for, especially gratitude, Shelly Ann, but also in the broader
Hmm.
spectrum of wellness.
One of
Is
the
that
areas
something?
that Shelley Ann speaks to with gratitude is
Yeah,
saying,
this is saying it
speaking
right.
it. Yeah, and so I think that fits in. And I like that almost every time that I used words or separations that would have grated on you, Cass, I was also thinking that's going to grate on Cass. Um,
And,
so,
and
I
I was
believe that.
thinking, how can I reword that? I'll have to figure that out. So next
yeah,
time I'll reword it.
yeah. So I was cognizant of it
I'm
as well.
training you.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are. And I actually did use sometimes I thought, I mean, as we say things, we're quickly figuring out what to say as we go, just as you said, Shelley. And I actually did replace a couple of what otherwise might have been negative words with a positive spin on it. That's hard to do. Like,
It
I've been
is.
around,
Joyful and heavy work in a lot of those places,
yeah,
if that's what you mean. If
I
that's what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, I've been around a
Discipline.
while. I've been
Discipline,
around a
yeah.
while, and Shelley Ann, I have a lot of habits in my life, so that have been
Yeah.
honed over decades. So
Yeah.
I'm an old dog. I'm willing to learn new tricks, but it's
Yeah.
tough. It's
It
tough.
takes
So
discipline. It really, really does. It
yeah,
really, really does. So,
Cass,
So I think that's a great
I
topic.
would love to have that topic.
yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yep.
So with that, let's say thank you to everybody who stuck in with us on a very kind of disoriented, rambling, sharing ideas kind of thing, which I love. What an amazing session this was today. You're right, Shelley Ann. It went so quickly, and yet I think we
Yes, it
touched on
always
it.
does.
Yeah, we touched on an enormous amount of information, really good information. If you're coming into this late, you may want to go back and listen to the replay for the front part of it because if you're interested at all in meditation, I think we covered much of it, and that's great. Um, Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. And the replay will be available as usual. And let's get out of here and say goodbye.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.